Merry Christmas and welcome to the Producer Podcast. I'm your host, Micah Versman, and today I'm pleased to present a special Christmas episode of the show as I'm joined again by Chad Gundersen, producer on The Chosen, to discuss last year's Christmas with The Chosen theatrical release. So grab that hot chocolate and let's get started. So I guess maybe to start, just kind of give some background on what led to doing that Christmas special last year, especially because you were busy finishing up season 2 of the show at the time and trying to prepare for season 3.
So it really kind of started with, I guess it would be now 3 years ago, we did a Christmas special. So that would have been kind of during season 2. We did, so we basically kind of did a music only Christmas special. And so that would have been, I guess that would have been 2020. That Christmas we had done, again, just music only. And it only released online, and it was a bunch of bands just doing Christmas music. And that sort of thing. So it wasn't anything, obviously not theatrical. There was no secret episode that we snuck in there or anything like that. And it was just kind of a fun online, multiple bands that got involved. And it's still out there and you can watch it. And so that just went really well. And it was just kind of your typical Christmas music, Drummer Boy and, Oh Holy Night and just all those great songs performed by quite a few different Christian bands and artists that came out to do that. And so that just went really, really well. And so then after season 2, we basically kind of, and honestly, it was a bit of a last minute thing. With The Chosen, we're always kind of, we redefine the hurry up and wait. Normally it's just hurry up. There is no wait at all. It's just hurry up. We take the whole wait part out. And so there was kind of just this idea floating around of doing, well, we always knew we were going to do another Christmas special, just music only. And obviously that's how we marketed it. And that's what we talked about. And that's what we told people until kind of right at the last minute when we kind of showed some footage of this kind of surprise episode that we had shot. But we shot the entire episode in secret, didn't tell anybody about it. Even the cast and crew, they were kind of under lock and key of the conversations to be had, basically talk about the music and talk about this because, with the very first Christmas special we did, there were a lot of actors involved and there was, they were reciting certain things and passages from the Bible or talking about the birth of Christ or whatever the case may be. So there were actors involved in the first time we did it. So the second time we kind of just said, yeah, we're just doing that again. It's just bigger this time. We just kind of, that's how we promoted it. And that's how we talked about it, was with that sort of conversation in mind as we were shooting. So while we were doing it, we basically, like I said, the writers got together and wrote what you saw within the Christmas special. So it was quite chilly. We were shooting up in Utah again and getting ready for it, but we shot it very late in the year. I think I want to say it was September or October. Okay. And up there in the mountains in Utah, it starts getting cold in October already. So yeah, we just kind of put it all together and then just kind of had to rush it into theaters and get it out there. We did go with Fathom, so it's a Fathom event, and that relationship has been great with Fathom. But, as you know, most Fathom projects are a one-night event or a two-night event at the very, very most. That's kind of their typical thing. And I can say with that first Christmas special, we ran for almost 30 days. So that was a huge surprise. It went from a two-night event to a 2-week event to a month-long event, just kind of back to back to back. It just kind of kept progressing and kind of going. And like I said, we didn't tell the fans that there was a special episode as well. So all those things just kind of added to this kind of cool phenomenon of putting a TV show in theaters. Now, putting a Christmas special or a Christmas musical type thing, especially on the Fathom side of things, because a lot of Fathom events are music. They're operas and they're concerts and they're sporting events and they're things like that. So to have a Christmas special from the music side wasn't too far fetched. But to put an episode of a TV show in there, that was definitely a little a head scratching thing. And of course, people just got excited because it definitely lines up with our thread of The Chosen and has a lot of the characters from The Chosen in it. But it's very much outside of the timeline. If anything, it's kind of a jump forward in time and that sort of
Right.
thing. So anyway, so yeah, I mean, all in all, it definitely couldn't have gone any better. But being secretive with The Chosen is not what we're known for. We kind of share everything. You know, we're online and social media, and Dallas is talking all the time, and everybody's posting, and we encourage people to post when they're on set and live stream, and we have all these influencers and social media folks that are on set all the time, including our own team that grows all the time. And so we're kind of always talking about the show, and we're always giving people a peek behind the scenes, which is pretty rare for a TV show anyway. But to then kind of flip that and go, okay, everything we've ever done, cast and crew, now we have to reel back on that a little bit and kind of say, okay, no, we can't do that anymore, or at least for this thing, because we got to keep it secret. You can talk about the Christmas, the music, and all that, but just don't talk about the episode. And so that was very difficult until right at the last minute when we finally announced it and showed some footage, and people went bonkers. And it was a great episode as well, as they all are. So it was cool. It's cool to be a part of.
Nice. So you mentioned how it was kind of a very last minute thing, the episode. So I'm just curious, like, budget wise, how that worked. Like, was it something that you were having to go out and raise the budget for that, or was it, you know, leftover funds from filming season 2 that you were able to use?
Yeah, it was kind of a hybrid of a couple of different things. We obviously didn't go and announce it, so we didn't quote unquote raise money the way we normally do it with pay it forwards and stuff like that. And so it definitely was part of, you know, various things, whether it was through our gifts, merchandise, all that sort of stuff. It was much lower budget than what our normal episodes were. So it wasn't like it was this massive production. And if you've seen the show, while it's beautiful and it's great, and our team, you know, between our production designer, James, and our DP, Akis, they're always very, very good at making things feel and look much bigger than they are. And so our
Mm-hmm.
team is awesome at doing that. And so, but it's a very simple story. It's a very, it's not big grandeur, you know, visual effects driven, you know, hundreds and hundreds of extras type thing that we happen to do every now and then, whether it be, you know, things like Sermon on the Mount or this season with Feeding of the 5,000. We didn't have anything like that. So it was a very intimate, small piece with only a handful of characters. So it definitely made it a lot easier to shoot and do and keep under wraps and all that. So it just wasn't a very expensive thing to begin with.
For sure. Um, so I wanted to focus a little bit on the musical artist side and working with them that you did for the episode. Um, so I guess my first question, because I know a lot of the performances you filmed in the same locations you filmed the show, were there unique challenges or anything different that you faced filming a musical performance at that location versus filming a narrative production?
I mean, you know, everything's got its challenges, so that's definitely, you know, nothing surprising. We did have a separate team doing the music side.
Okay.
While we oversaw everything and helped and were a part, there was an entirely different team that came in called Mystery Box, and they're a production company, and they've been great partners to us for many years now, and they're just a very talented group of filmmakers, and so they came in and really oversaw the music side of things. Also, Catherine on our team, she oversaw and produced the musical side of that as well. And so we really, because we literally were shooting them kind of congruently, we had to kind of go, okay, well, you need to go handle that, and we're going to handle this over here. Obviously, we're working together, and we helped where we could, and they helped where they could. But it was a whole separate team. Again, part of our team, and our art department helped and did a lot of different things just to make sure that it had the same feel and the same look as The Chosen is, because obviously The Chosen is a brand unto itself, and we want to kind of stay to that. So, but I will also say that there were definitely some issues in the sense of just timing and scheduling, and like okay, they're blaring music over there 400 feet away, and we're trying to film an intimate scene where Mary is giving birth to Christ, right? So it's like we did have to kind of time things and work through things to make sure that everybody was on the same page and not overlapping or stepping on each other's toes. But again, when you're all on the same team and you're all doing it for the same purpose, then it's easy to kind of get around those things. Difficult, sure, and has its challenges, but everybody's on the same team and everybody had the same goal in mind. So we were excited. I mean, I can say that their team was always over watching us shoot, and when they were shooting, most of our team was standing there going, "Dude, it's Brandon Lake! Like, this is awesome! Like, I'm a huge fan. I can't wait to go and watch whatever the musical guest was that was a part of it." And obviously, there were many. So that was kind of cool to be able to watch and meet those folks, and now they're kind of becoming family as well. A lot of these musicians are pretty cool to have as fans, because we're all just as big of fans of theirs as they have become of ours.
Yeah. Um, so you mentioned kind of having to work the schedules of filming the music videos and the episodes at the same time. What was that like? Not only having to do that, but then I guess also kind of like schedule the artists, while they weren't, like, how did you figure all that out, avoiding, tour dates and other commitments they had?
Yeah, logistics were not an easy thing for sure, and we had to help a lot with that, because if you recall, that was also right in the middle of COVID as well. So and while COVID is still kind of rearing its ugly head here and there, it's for the most part kind of gone away. But at that time, going on 2 years ago, we were kind of at the peak of it. So things like testing and things like scheduling, I would say the good thing to that time is obviously there weren't a lot of live shows going on because of COVID. Now, there were
Right.
some, and there was some travel and stuff, but it made it easier for us to get the artists in. And there were definitely some that we wish we had gotten longer or more of, or whatever. But it definitely was had its challenges to put that together and get that schedule and to bring those people in. But they were all very, very gracious and very excited to be a part of it, and that was kind of cool. I mean, I even remember, so this just here recently, myself, Chris June, the other producer, and Dallas, we won a Dove Award, right, for The Chosen, and we were at the Dove Awards itself, at the GMA Dove Awards, and we ran into Brandon Lake, and he kind of stopped me, and he was just like, "Dude," he goes, "You guys blew up my music video for that song that I did for the Christmas special. Thank you guys so much." And I'm sitting there going, "No, thank you so much for being a part of it." So again, it just kind of was that same idea of everybody just kind of working together and doing something cool for the Christmas holiday, and all of that sort of thing. So it's fun to see the ramifications of that in a good way, with people like Brandon and Phil and all the other artists that were a part. Mad City, again, they're huge fans of them, and so there was just so many. It's kind of honestly too many to, but they were, again, just great to work with and great to have, and so they bent over backwards with their schedules to come and do it, because while we were kind of hoping they would do it, or we were going to plead or beg or steal or whatever we had to do to get them to go hard, most of them were just like, heck yeah, I love the show. If I can be a part of it in any way, shape, or form, we want to. So it really was just a great collaboration between The Chosen and all those artists.
So then, on the narrative side, with the episode you did, I guess I'm curious to kind of hear, and this is probably a little bit more Dallas and the writers, but like how you went about crafting that story, because there was already one kind of Christmas episode that was a pilot for the whole Chosen, and not making it feel like it was just, a higher production quality version of that.
Well, the idea going in, and I remember having a conversation with Dallas and Ryan and Tyler, the writers, which again, I'll reiterate till the cows come home, that this whole show starts with the writing. And those three, led by Ryan, are just unbelievable. the ideas that they come up with. And, I just love sitting and talking with Tyler and what are you working on next and where are you going? And then talking with Ryan. And then obviously Dallas comes in and does his thing with them as well. It's just such a cool process to even watch. And I'm not one of the writers. I'm not one part of the creative team, which on a lot of projects I am a part of the creative team and a part of that process. But, I'm humbled to be in the presence of some of these guys because they're so great and they put so much time and effort and they take it so serious. That with the Christmas special, I mean, the idea at the highest level really was, well, in The Shepherd, right? The pilot, the thing that started it all, it was telling the Christmas story from a different perspective, not your typical perspective of when you listen to the nativity story or watch the nativity story or whatever it is. It's very focused normally on Mary, but at least on Mary, Joseph, and obviously baby Jesus, not, and all these other players just kind of enter the scene and exit the scene. So this idea of doing it from the shepherd's perspective is a cool thing. So there was a conversation like, oh, should we do it from the perspective of one of the wise men? Should we do it from the perspective of the donkey? Like, what do you do it from? Like, so this idea of kind of going from a different perspective was that kind of idea. And so with this, it definitely was from Mother Mary's perspective, right? Because it's her telling her version of the story. But again, it's even her version of the story was yet a different angle than what we've ever seen before. And so that's kind of the idea. Honestly, it's the idea of The Chosen in general, right? It's all these different perspectives and how the disciples' lives are, or Mary Magdalene's life, or Mother Mary, or even some of the Pharisees, right? Like, how is Jesus affecting them in their real lives on a day-to-day basis? That's something that we can also relate to. And so this perspective, and the idea of, and again, hopefully everybody's seen this. If not, you're a year and a half behind, you need to go watch it, or a year behind, you need to go watch it. So the idea that, Mary is basically on her deathbed, right? Mother Mary is on her deathbed, and Mary Magdalene comes to her, who is kind of basically a daughter to her, and to be able to tell that story in such a sweet, endearing way. And then also to kind of reminisce a little bit, about where are the disciples, what's going on, and oh, so and so has died, and I miss him so much, referring back to Jesus. So again, it was just such a sweet, awesome, emotional thing. And for me personally, and I tell Liz this all the time, the actress that plays Mary Magdalene, she just wrecks me, man. She is just such a talented actress, but just the character of Mary Magdalene and how she's written, and how she's performed by Liz and all that, I just think every time just Liz gets me. It's like every time Liz comes on screen, I'm just like, oh, here we go again, comes the waterworks, kind of thing. And so again, just all those elements put together, and then it was just a beautiful piece as well. Again, it was just a cool thing to see. But it all starts with the writing and the idea that Dallas and the team came up with of this yet another perspective, and then you start meeting some new characters that will pop up more in season 3, like Lazarus and some of these others, and so they're all on their way, and they'll be seen more within our current main canon story of The Chosen in the seasons. So it's been cool. It was a fun little episode, but again, always has its challenges.
I bet. So jumping to kind of look at the distribution of it, you mentioned this was a Fathom event. Had you ever done a Fathom event release before, or was this kind of your first adventure into that world?
For me, it was a first Fathom. Obviously very familiar with Fathom, and I've taken at least 2 or 3 films that I've done over the years into theaters. Typically just normal, your standard, have a distributor, whether it's Sony or Fox or whoever the distributor may be. I've even booked one of my movies, myself and the director. We booked all the theaters and we did it. So it was a bit of a Fathom event, but it was more just kind of an independent, almost 4-wall type of scenario. And so while I've done theatrical releases, I had never done a Fathom. But in my mind, talking about what we were chatting about a few minutes ago, is that Fathoms aren't normally a multi-week run thing. They're just not. They're normally a 1-night event, and a 2 or 3-night event is kind of that's an anomaly, right? It's not just normal to see things run like that. But movie theaters they honestly don't care. Now, Fathoms are treated a little different, and they're structured differently, and the deals are different, and the payouts and tickets and all those different things. There's small little nuances to all that. But at the end of the day, the theaters are like, hey, if something's making money, we want to leave it in the theaters, because the movie theaters make money off of the movies regardless of who's distributing it. And that's what they want. And so when you're within the top 5 or 10 movies out, that's how it works, because theaters, these megaplexes, right? Let's say it has 20 screens. Well, if there's 2 new movies coming out, 1 through 18 get to stay, and 19 and 20 leave, and the two new movies come in, right? That's just kind of how it works. Now, a lot of these new movies, even we did, you're on multiple screens sometimes, so sometimes it's more than that, that get dumped. But at the end of the day, if you're in the top 10, you're pretty safe to stay. And normally Fathoms don't do that. Fathoms, if they make $1 million or $2 million in a day or two, that's a pretty big haul. Which again, that's not anything to shake a stick at, for sure. Especially for smaller documentaries or these other type of Fathom events that have happened over the years. But for The Chosen, for whatever reason, we did way more than that in our opening weekend. And I can't remember where we placed when we did the first Christmas special last year. But we were definitely up there. And there wasn't a lot of movies coming out. And again, COVID was happening and all those things. So there was just this kind of perfect storm of things happening to where the Christmas special just did really well, and it just took off. And like I said, we ended up running for a month, I think. I think we were right at a month. I think we came out right before Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving, and then ran all the way up to Christmas, really. But again, the plan was, I think, 2 nights. I think we were a 2-night event is how it originally was scheduled. And so working with Fathom has been awesome. And with the Christmas special, we literally broke every Fathom record that Fathom had. Wow. Whether it was the most pre-sold tickets, and I can't remember, I think it was 1 million or a couple million in pre-sold tickets. So that was a big thing. And then if you go on to, kind of Box Office Mojo or wherever, the numbers or whatever, some of these sites that you can check box office, and you go to Fathom and you look at their top things, The Chosen is number 1 and number 2, the Christmas special, and now these newer episodes that we have out. And so to kind of have that, of course, Fathom's going to go, hey, let's do this again, or what are you doing next time, or whatever the case is. And so obviously they were more than excited. And honestly, I remember when pre-sale tickets went online with Fathom, last year when we were doing this, we warned Fathom. We're like, our fans, like, you better be ready. You better be ready, because they're coming. And Dallas went online and he talked about it, and we released some footage of what's coming. So people were like, wait a minute, there's an episode in this. So people were just freaking out. Like, it just wasn't music. And so we've warned them, and they either did crash, or it had a version, like a mini crash or whatever. Their site just was overloaded. And so again, all good problems to have, and you can laugh about it now, but it just, again, is a testament to the amazing fans that we have, and where the show is going and what God's doing with the show. It's honestly become pretty humbling. It's something that, it's one of these things, like, you don't want to go too false humility with it, in the sense of, we don't deserve it, and which of course we don't deserve any of the amazing things that God always blesses us with. But at the same time, to say that it's not about numbers, and it's not about ticket sales, and it's not about those things, I can't say that's entirely true, because if those things are happening, then we're reaching more people. Right. If the movie makes $1 million, well, then we sold $1 million worth of tickets, and $1 million worth of tickets worth of people are seeing the show. And so that makes it worth it. That makes it a cool thing to do that. Now, we're not doing it for the money. Now, people got to pay their bills, and we got to do all the things that, the normal average American has to do all the time. But at the same time, it is exciting to see what God's doing. It is exciting to see, because we're not doing it. We're doing our part, and we kind of laugh, and, kind of an ongoing joke now is, oh Lord, please don't let us screw this up. Don't let us mess up whatever it is you're doing with this show. And it's something that it's become another kind of moniker of, we've all seen really, really bad movies or bad TV shows that are just as popular as all get out. And you get all excited and you go watch it, and you kind of scratch your head and you're like, that was it? Like, that was all the hype? I don't understand. And then we've all found those TV shows or found those movies that you'd never heard of, and it never got the publicity, never got the press or whatever, and really wasn't very successful, but it was just an amazing show, right? It was just great. And you're just like, how in the world did I not know about this TV show or this movie? And so for whatever reason, we are one of those shows that now is not only out there, but also hopefully something that people are really excited about and looking forward to with future seasons and future projects and all those things. And again, it's not up to us. Like I said, whatever reason God is kind of blessing this thing, we're just holding on and just doing the best work that we can, and making hopefully just an excellent show on every level, whether it's the spiritual side of things or dealing with the gospels or just making a great show. And we just want the most talented people to be a part. And it is changing lives. We have amazing stories of people either within the show or being impacted by the show and all those kinds of things. But we can't control how well it does. We can't control the numbers. We can't control ticket sales or any of those things, but we can control how we conduct ourselves and in the excellent work that we hope that we do, which is a big part of a big reason that we're all doing this, is just to do excellent work and hopefully, continue to touch people and impact the world with the show.
For sure. So then how did you go about, like, I guess maybe modifying your promotion, since normally The Chosen, is just getting released through its streaming app, and now all of a sudden you're trying to get people into theaters for this Christmas special? Like, what changes did you make, especially to, I think, like, the show essentially people can watch for free, but for the Christmas special, now they're having to spend money, and like making that so that's not a turn off to them, seeing that.
At the end of the day, the show will always be free. And that is something that Dallas has made very, very clear. And we all continue to reiterate. And it is obviously something that the intention was for the show not to be free. When we first started making the show before season one, the intention was not to be free. But through various chain of events, God just showed us that this is what you need to be doing. This is what you need to do. Make it free. Make it almost a ministry. Now, obviously, the show's not free, and it costs a lot of money to make, and that's a whole other conversation to get into with that. But so we've always said that the show will always be free somewhere, right? And the show continues to expand and get on more platforms, and the app is doing amazing, and all the different things all the different ways that the show is out there. There's plenty of opportunities. There's no reason for anybody not to say, I can't find it. Now, initially, when it was just the app, people had a lot of issues, but we still had millions and millions of views and all those kinds of things. But so going into theaters, you're absolutely right. It can be tricky. It's kind of like, well, why would I pay for something? Because to be honest with you, that's the rhetoric you hear right now with all of these movies. Like with all things going theatrical, it's like, well, I'll just wait and I'll watch it on whatever platform that this is going to be on. Like, why would I go spend the money and do that in the theater? Now, I personally think there are certain movies that are made to be seen in theaters. Like it's the reason behind it. As a filmmaker, you know this as well. Certain movies you got to go see in the theater. Like you just have to, whether it's the visual or the audio, one of the other big things is experiencing a project with an audience. And I would say that The Chosen is not a spectacle piece, right? Again, no huge, crazy visual effects. Not that we don't have them. We actually have more than people realize. And our team behind that is so good that you don't notice most of them. But the show is not. The show is a character piece. And so that makes it kind of make you scratch your head a little bit more, kind of going, well, why wouldn't you just wait? And a lot of people do. And there are plenty of people that, either can't or won't or don't live near a theater, whatever the case may be, that don't. And they do wait. It will be out on the app eventually. Everything will be. We're never going to keep it back or have an only in theaters experience sort of thing. The show will always be out there for free. But I think the biggest thing about The Chosen, and I've noticed this, is experiencing it with an audience. Like sitting in a theater, having an audience there, having your friends, your families, or other people that just already love the show. I mean, you walk into most movies now, again, sequels and the Marvel world and all this, everybody has this idea. And so there is kind of this camaraderie around going and watching another Star Wars movie or going and watching another Marvel movie or whatever it is. But most movies you walk into and you don't know what you're walking into. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Am I going to like the characters? Is it going to be a fun movie? Am I going to laugh? Am I going to cry? All those things. But the thing about a TV show, especially a TV show that's now entering into its third season, you know exactly what you're getting into. You
Mm.
know the characters. Now you don't know what's going to happen. Actually, you kind of do know what's going to happen because you've probably read the Bible. So you know the stories, you know what's about to happen. So it's just this weird anomaly that that people continue to be excited about the show. But again, it goes back to the writing and what a testament it is to the uniqueness of the way that the story is being told in The Chosen. But I would say the number one thing with The Chosen and seeing it in theaters is to share it with an audience. And just to be there and to laugh together and to cry together and to cheer together and to do all those things together is a big thing. And I love doing it too. I love sitting in a movie theater and being a part of that experience, whether it's with my family, whether it's with friends or just other fans of whatever the project is. And in this case, it's The Chosen. So I think that's the big thing that has done that. And again, in doing the Christmas special, kind of proved a point that, hey, people do want to gather. And again, during the time of COVID, when the Christmas special came out, it was one of those things where it was time to get people back together. It was time to be in a room together. And again, to be cautious and to understand the risks of all those kinds of things. And, COVID's a whole other conversation, a whole other podcast. But again, it was time to get out. And I think that was a big, big testament to the fans and the audiences of everywhere, of the world, going, we want to be back out here. We want to be back out in public, watching something that affirms my soul, affirms my faith, and affirms my excitement for the season, which obviously is Christmas.
Right. So then, I guess looking back on that release, because you've now are just in the process / finishing up releasing this premiere of season 3 in theaters, what were maybe some things you learned or takeaways from doing the Christmas special that you were then able to apply to doing season 3?
Well, I mean, we kind of covered a lot of them, whether it's, Fathom being ready, which they were this time, and gathering the audience, putting it on more screens to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to do that. This go around with episode 1 and 2 of season 3, there is no music to it. It isn't this Christmas special. It's just episode 1 and 2 of season 3. And we kind of joke and go, they're not even the most exciting of the episodes of season 3, but they're outstanding. And it obviously has done quite well. And like I said earlier, it's now we're number 1 and number 2 for Fathom Fathom releases in the records that they have, and so that's again an exciting thing. And to be out there against 2 of the biggest titles ever in the history. Obviously the Black Panther Marvel universe is huge, and so to be playing second and third fiddle to them is not a bad thing. But again, it's not like we were even trying to compete with them. It's not like we even had these false hopes of, we're going to be number 1. Like that was never it. So even to be number 2 and number 3 against some of the other titles that were out was a cool thing. And now, with now that theaters are kind of in full swing again, we have Avatar coming out and some other big films here during the Christmas season that are obviously gonna kind of elbow us out of the way as we come. But again, our goal wasn't to go and break a bunch of box office records with our thing. Our goal is simple, and that's to give our audience, our fans, a unique experience, a unique opportunity to go and see things in the theater. And again, putting a TV show in theaters is unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, name one other TV show that goes in theaters. It just doesn't happen. I mean, maybe there's been an example of certain shows, like when they the season finale or the series finale, like when the whole show is done, maybe they've done those in theaters or special events or things like that over the years. But again, to just grab random 2 episodes of a season premiere and throw it in theaters, and then to do as well as it did, we're all kind of scratching our heads and going, all right, God, there's another cool thing that you did that we didn't see coming. But so yeah, I mean, I just think it's preparedness, the goals to do it ahead of time. I would argue that we still need more time to prep for things. That seems to be the chosen way. is just, again, just hurry up. There is no wait. We're just always hurrying up, and now we're hurrying up into season 4 and getting things ready and all that sort of thing. And so it was just awesome to be a part of and to watch and to help produce something like that is pretty cool thing.
For sure. And I guess, yeah, because you probably got to actually like watch the episodes with people in theaters instead of just watching them online as they come out like everybody else does. That must have been really fun.
Yeah, we did a special event. Basically, one of our partners, one of our biggest partners, is the Salvation Army for the show.
Okay.
The property that we shoot the show on is a camp here in Texas called Camp Hoblitzell. And it's in Midlothian, Texas, which is just south of Dallas, about half an hour or so. And Camp Hoblitzell, which is a Salvation Army camp, they have just become they become family. Casey, the guy that runs the camp, Casey Bilbrey, he's just an amazing guy, amazing believer, and he runs that camp. And then through him, we obviously have met, multiple people within the Salvation Army organization, and they've just been awesome partners. So we did basically a fundraiser for the Salvation Army, which obviously during the Christmas season is kind of their big push every year. And so it was awesome to be able to partner with them. And we did a premiere out in Atlanta. And again, I say premiere, even though it was really more of a fundraiser. For the Salvation Army specifically in Camp Hoblitzell. And so doing that in Atlanta at the Fox Theater, we had tons of fans come that people could come and participate. And, the majority of the cast and a lot of the crew were able to be there. And the Fox Theater it holds thousands of people. And I want to say we had 2,500 people at a movie theater, which is crazy. So experiencing that show with them and, myself and Dallas and Chris and a lot of the others, we've seen the episodes multiple times because we're editing and doing all these things. So you kind of get to that point and you've experienced this. You're like, I don't even know if it's good anymore. I've watched it so many times and I've edited and this and music and sound and all the things. You're just like, I've seen it in so many pieces. And even as a whole, you just kind of don't know. You don't know how the audience is going to react. And so being in that audience and being some of the very first people to see the show before it released, because the premiere was obviously before the actual release, it was awesome. Again, the cheering, the laughing, the crying, a lot of sniffles, throughout the audience of including myself. As my wife says, I'm a crier. And so it was cool to be a part of that and experience that in theaters. And then we went and seen it before. And even my local theater, I've kind of popped my head in a few times and just, checked out the audience and see how they're doing. And there's still some full theaters out there doing their thing. So it's cool. And so while we will be wrapping it up here pretty soon, again, just yet another thing of the Chosen doing something and God doing something with the Chosen that is very unexpected, but again, very humbling and cool. So
For sure. So I have a few more kind of wrap up questions. This first one isn't as much focused on the Christmas special, but I'd love to hear kind of your advice to other producers out there, because like right now you're wrapping up post on season 3, but you're also prepping for season 4. So how do you balance when you almost have like multiple projects going on at the same time that need your attention, and make sure you're giving the time they both need and getting stuff done?
I don't know. I mean, you just, it is a balance, right? And I think the balance is actually probably more important on the personal side of things,
Okay.
whether that's with your family, with yourself, as far as your health goes, time like that, time at church, time in prayer, time in the word, all those things. To find those balances will help on the professional side, especially as believers. And I think even for non-believers. I mean, again, I think, unfortunately, it's a very an old joke, but a true quote unquote joke that, oh, those two didn't make it. You hear about another divorce or another family breaking up or whatever within Hollywood. Now, of course, they're in the press. It's happening all the time. But and so I would say that's the biggest thing, is finding the balance on your personal life and your spiritual life and in physical. I mean, the industry can really wear and tear on your body and your mental health and all those kinds of things. So I think really paying attention to those things allows the ability to balance the work side of things. And I think that would apply, honestly, to any industry, to any profession out there. But I would also say another big thing is surround yourself with amazing people. The team that we have, that I have, I can't speak highly enough of. Again, my business partner, Chris, who's one of the other producers, all the other producers on the show, obviously Dallas and the team and all the crew and the amazing cast, but even my specific, kind of support group, Carrie and Renee and, production manager, coordinator, the accountants, all those things that make me, they make me look good at my job, and I'm not. They're good at their job, and it makes me look good at my job. And I say this all the time. I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. I don't want to be. I want to surround myself with amazing people, and The Chosen has that. The Chosen has amazing cast. Obviously, they're extremely talented, very humble, and excited to be on this journey with all of us. But the crew who within this industry is always underappreciated, and I wouldn't even say underappreciated, just not noticed, right? But that's not the intention of it, right? Obviously, everybody wants to see the stars. Everybody wants to see the directors and the writers and all these kinds of things. But there is this massive village behind every project, and that is the crew. And they deserve every accolade and more because of how much time and dedication they put into these things. And that's what makes the projects doable, are the people around you. I've said this many times, and I'll continue to say it. People make movies, not other things, right? Cameras don't make movies. Edit bays don't make movies. None of those things, the computers or whatever the case is, none of that makes movies. People make movies. And when you ignore the people or don't take care of the people, then that's where the breakdown will happen. And so yeah, I think all those things really kind of add up to allow me to do what I do as one of those out kind of steering the ship and leading the charge. It's those around us are huge. And of course, families, our husbands and wives and all the different people back home, your kids, those are the things that you better be focused on, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that matter way more. I always say, we're making movies. We're not curing cancer here. We are very blessed and fortunate to do what we do. And there are a lot of people out there that would beg and plead to do what we do. So if you don't love it, and if it's not something God's called you to do, there's definitely better ways to spend your time and not have to stress within this industry. People that visit set or come and really learn about the industry, it's obviously not a glimmery, glistening, pretty thing. It's a very, very, very tough industry, but very rewarding, because it is such a difficult thing. Because at the end of the day, the harder it is, the more rewarding things are. And that's why, whether it's anybody at a professional level, look at sports or whatever it is, it's exciting because most people understand how hard it is to get there. And there's no difference within the film and television world.
That's for sure. So then my final question is, I'd just be curious to hear what your favorite part of producing the Christmas special was, because that's not something that every, filmmaker gets to do.
Well, I've said it already. I would say my favorite part of the Christmas special was meeting some of the artists, the musical artist side of it. Just because I'm a huge fan of praise and worship music. I'm a huge fan of all kinds of music. And we had a lot of different types of artists within that space that were around. And so a lot of them, as the Catherine and Mystery Box and all them were putting the artists together, I got excited when I heard, I'm like, you got so-and-so, like you got, so I would say that would be the biggest part to me. I can laugh and go, well, I produce things every day. That's whatever. But, to get, musical acts or artists or whatever that you're just a fan of their work and admire the work that they put in. And as an artist, right, I'm a big dreamer, man. We are dreamers as filmmakers, as musicians, as anybody in the arts. We're all dreamers. And I think true dreamers, they love to see other dreamers succeed. And a lot of the folks that were a part of the Christmas special, nobody even knew about them 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And that's exciting to me to see them using their awesome God-given talents, no different than making a film or television show, using their talents to impact the world and get out there. And so meeting them and being a part of that and just being fanboy of all those artists was probably the most special thing to me. And I loved watching them, and then loved the two coming together, the chosen world and those musical acts coming together was just a cool thing for me.
Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead then and wrap up this episode. But thank you, Chad, for once again coming on the show.
Come on, man. I'll always come back, man. If you call, I'm answering. So I sometimes don't know when I'll answer, but I will answer. I promise you that. I have to apologize sometimes. Everybody gets busy and whatnot. So I appreciate you reaching out, man. I dig your podcast. I've listened to quite a few of them, and so I'm a fan. So thank you for having me back. It was always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this special Christmas episode of the Producer Podcast. Stay tuned for more new episodes of the Producer Podcast when Season 6 of the show returns in 2023. Until then, make sure to subscribe to the Producer Podcast, and thanks for listening.